Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I get a lot of messages about people who want to travel to Haiti, so I decided why not give you all some tips and recommendations. So this video is being filmed on July 9th, 2022. So if you're watching this video 2 years from now or 5 years from now, then the situation might be a little different, okay? So just keep that in mind. So first, let's talk about security. Is it safe to travel to Haiti? Most of the people who message me are actually Haitian. They usually say, I really want to come to Haiti, but my family's scaring me and telling me not to go and discouraging me from going. They said this and that and blah, blah, blah. So if you yourself are afraid to come to Haiti, my opinion is that you shouldn't come, honestly, because if you're afraid to go somewhere, why would you go? Like, I wouldn't go anywhere that I'm afraid of, you know? So I know you probably were expecting me to say something else, but I'm honestly, if you are afraid to come to Haiti, then it's just probably not for you. But if it is your family, you know, that's discouraging you, or your family that is preventing you from coming, then I think there are a few things that you should consider. Okay, first of all, Haiti has 10 departments. Okay, a lot of people reduce Haiti to Port-au-Prince or the West Department, whereas Haiti has 10 departments. It's not just Port-au-Prince. It's not just the West. It's not just what you see happening in the capital or surrounding areas. There is so much more to Haiti than just that. So I feel like it's really important to know that fact. And I feel like a lot of people forget that. We have the West Department. We have Latibonite. We have the Central Plateau, the North, the Northeast, the Northwest. We have the South, the Southeast. We have Nip and we have Gundas. We have 10 departments. There is far more to Haiti than just Port-au-Prince and, you know, the West Department. And as a Haitian, it is very important to know that and to realize that. You know, when someone tells you they're going to Haiti and you're sending them videos and news coming out of the West Department, and that's not even where they're going, it's just like, what exactly does that have to do with their trip? You know, let's take Limonade, for instance. Say someone is going to Limonade, and they're going to fly directly to Cap-Haïtien because Cap-Haïtien has an international airport. So they don't even need to pass through Port-au-Prince. They just go straight from the States to Cap-Haïtien or OCAP. So we call it OCAP, Cap-Haïtien. Honestly, here locally, we usually just say OCAP, okay? But, you know, I might say Cap-Haïtien, I might say OCAP. So there is an airport in Cap-Haïtien that they will land at. And then they just take the drive from Cap-Haïtien to Limonade. There is so much to do in the North Department. So if they wanted to stay in the North the whole time, they could do that. They don't even have to venture out if they didn't want to, you know? So just imagine their entire trip will be in the North. They're going to land in the North. They're going to be in the North. And people in their family are sending them, you know, all these videos and all these things that they see happening in Port-au-Prince, which is in the West Department. The West and the North are not near each other. It takes at least 5 hours to drive from Port-au-Prince to the North, you know? And also there is a whole department that separates the West from the North. Latibonite is right there. So you go from the West, then Latibonite, then the North. They're not close to each other. So it's not like, oh, this is happening in Port-au-Prince. It's right next to, you know, this place is going to spill over and go into there. No, there is a whole department that is separating the West to the North. So if someone tells you that they're going on a trip to the North, they're going to be in the North the whole time. They're flying into the North. They're going to be in OCAP. They're going to fly into OCAP and then go wherever they need to go. That's in the North or in that area. Then it doesn't make sense for you to be sending them things coming out of the West Department. Because in this case, the West doesn't really impact the North, you know? And so what I think you should do, if you are concerned about your family member going to an area like the North, send them news and information coming out of that area. And when it comes to crime in Haiti, everything is recorded and everything is posted online. So you can guarantee that you are going to find all the information that you need. You're going to see exactly what goes down in the North. You're going to be able to see everything. So that's going to help you figure out at what frequency is the crime happening in that area. Is it every day, every other day, every week, once a month, once every 3 months? Can you barely find anything coming out of that specific area? And once you figure that out, I invite you to look at the crime rates in the Caribbean. You are going to be shocked to learn that the most popular tourist destinations in the Caribbean have higher crime rates than Haiti. But the thing is, most of the countries in the Caribbean have such a great image in the media, you wouldn't even know that they have high crime rates. And they also have international airports in their tourist towns. So you can fly directly to a town. You don't have to drive through the whole country and things like that. And their tourism industry is just very developed. So a lot of times when you think of these countries and your family tells you, oh, I'm going to such and such place, you're probably helping them pack their bags. You're excited for them. Send me pictures. I can't wait to see, you on vacation. And in reality, the country that they're going to have higher crime rates than Haiti, but you don't want them to go to Haiti. But don't take my word for it. Please go and look up these statistics online, and don't just look at one website. Go to 3-4 different websites and compare. Say your family member is going to Jacmel. Jacmel is in the Southeast department, and it's pretty peaceful over there. Pretty much the greater South is pretty peaceful. So now, you might be concerned and say, well, you're going to Jacmel, but you're going to fly into Port-au-Prince. How are you going to get from Port-au-Prince to Jacmel? That is a valid concern, because over the past year, it's been exactly a year because it started around this time last year, Matissan has been under control of gangs. So it is very difficult for you to go from Port-au-Prince to the south or the south to Port-au-Prince. So if someone is concerned about that, that is a valid concern, because they probably don't really know how are you going to get there. So I'm not saying that you shouldn't be concerned, but I do feel like it isn't fair to reduce Haiti to just Port-au-Prince, And if your family is going to be in the north and you know that your family's from Limonade, they're going to be staying at your cousin's house or whatever, and you're sending them things in Port-au-Prince. Port-au-Prince is not Haiti. Port-au-Prince is just one city in the West Department. There are 10 departments, So we have to really keep that in mind, especially as Haitians. We should know Haiti. So my first tip for traveling to Haiti in 2022 is to plan your vacation away from the Port-au-Prince area. So overall, when it comes to security, the main issue is the West Department. Okay, there's a lot going on here right now. And over the past year, especially, there has been a higher level of crime in this area. And because of that, I wouldn't recommend that you stay in this area. Of course, you would have to come here most likely to travel to other places, but to actually stay here during your vacation, I wouldn't recommend that. And I know you might say, but you live in the West Department. I watch your vlogs. I see that you're out and about. And yeah, that's true. But I've definitely made some adjustments to my life over the past year. And, there are places that I used to go that I don't go to anymore. There are things that I used to do that I don't do anymore. And there are just some changes that I've made. And also, you might even see people that come here all the time. You're like, well, this person's always there. And, my cousin was just there for a month and this and that. And yes, that may be true, but that's just something that they are comfortable doing. I'm just not going to recommend it, since there is an issue here that isn't really being resolved. I don't think that you should put yourself in that situation if you're not comfortable with it. And as I mentioned before, there is so much more to Haiti than just Port-au-Prince, so please go and explore other areas right now as we are going through this rough time in the West Department. And I know if you've always wanted to come here, you want to go to Petion-ville and you want to go here, you want to visit Fort Jacques and this and that, if you've always wanted to do those things, just hold off a little bit. Go somewhere else this year, and then once everything is resolved and back to normal in this area, then you can come here. But for now, I recommend that you plan your trip away from the Port-au-Prince area. So now let's talk about transportation. There are 2 international airports, one in Port-au-Prince and one in Cap-Haïtien. If you are staying somewhere that is in the greater northern region of Haiti, then I definitely recommend that you fly into Cap-Haïtien. Okay, so that is the North Department, Northeast, Northwest. Also, Latibonite is a pretty large department, so depending on where you are going in Latibonite, then I definitely recommend you flying into Cap-Haïtien as well. But some places are closer to Port-au-Prince than to Cap-Haïtien. So it depends on exactly where you're going. And the same with Plateau Central, the Central Plateau department. It depends on where you're going to. But overall, if you're going to be somewhere in the northern region that is closer to the Cap-Haïtien airport, then I definitely recommend flying into there. If you're going to be staying in the greater south, then you would have to fly into Port-au-Prince. And I know people are, concerned about that, but there are 2 alternatives. So the first alternative is to go on this road that passes through La Bouldouse and ends up in Carrefour. La Bouldouse is a part of Petion-ville. And basically, when you take that road, you end up in Cafu, which is actually further than Matissan. So you don't have to even worry about anything about Matissan. Don't have to see it or anything like that. So that is why people take that road. I know some people, when they come here, they rent a car and they just drive to the south. But this road is a little tricky. Okay, so it's through the mountains. There are areas that are very, very narrow, and one false move and you are like rolling down the mountain. So if you are not familiar with that road, if you are not familiar with driving in those type of conditions, like in the mountains, unpaved road, very narrow, if you are not familiar with that, then I'm not going to recommend that you drive. Get someone who is comfortable with driving on that road to do it, just to make sure that you get to where you need to get to safely. I actually vlogged the last time I took that road. So if you want to check that out, I'm going to link it down below, because I went on a work trip to Okai and we took a helicopter to Okai, but then when we came back, we drove instead. So if you want to check that out, just so you can see like how the road is, then I'm going to link that video down below so y'all can check it out after you watch this video. So aside from taking the road through La Boudeuse, the other option is to fly to one of the airports in the south. So there are 3 airports in the south. There's one in Jacmel, there's one in Okai, and there's one in Jérémie. So basically what you do is you fly into Port-au-Prince. Of course, you're going to be at the main airport, but then there is a separate airport for domestic flights. It is right next to the main airport. It literally takes a minute and a half to drive from the main airport to the smaller airport. They have different entrances, but I think they use the same runway. So basically you have to go to the smaller airport, and then you can take a flight to Jacmel, to Okai, or to Jérémie. It's a very short flight. I think they're all like around 30 minutes. You might actually prefer to fly from Port-au-Prince to one of the towns, because it's so much quicker, because driving to the south, well, depending on where you're going, takes like at least 4 to 5 hours. Especially if you're going somewhere like Jérémie. Oh my gosh, Jérémie, before they paved that road a few years ago, I would always hear people say it took them like 12, 13, 14, 15 hours just to go from Port-au-Prince to Jérémie. Now, like when I went, I think it took 6 hours. I think it took us 6 hours to get there. So it's much better than 12 plus hours. But yeah, taking a short plane ride might be something that you want to check into. So if you decide to fly from Port-au-Prince to one of the airports in the south, then I definitely recommend only flying with a reputable airline company. Okay, ever since the situation in Matissan started, there have been these small private plane companies that just have been popping up out of nowhere, and they've definitely been causing some issues. There have been some plane crashes, and they have all been, with these small airplanes. And when I say small, I'm talking about the airplanes that have like 2 seats, 4 seats, 6 seats, those type of airplanes. Sunrise Airways, of course, has smaller planes, but I think they seat probably like 30 people or so. I've never counted, but that's what I think. 30, maybe even 40. I don't know, but they definitely don't have 4 or 6 seats. Those are the airplanes that I'm talking about. After the last crash, the government actually claimed that they were going to be launching an investigation, and that they were suspending flights from like these small private companies and all of that. And I don't really think that happened, because literally 4 days after they made that announcement, I flew from Cap-Haïtien to Port-au-Prince. Once we touched down in Port-au-Prince, the small planes were functioning as normal. I don't think they completed that investigation in 4 days. Like, let's be serious. If you're trying to fly on a specific day and Sunrise Airways doesn't have flights to that city, then you can fly to one of the other cities in the south and then just drive to wherever you want to go. That is definitely a better option than just getting on any old airplane. So now let's talk about ground transportation. When it comes to transportation, I definitely recommend checking with the hotel where you are going to be staying and see if they have a shuttle, or see if they can make some arrangements for you, or if they know like a taxi service or anything like that. Just see if you can make some arrangements with them. Of course, if you have family here, or if you're familiar with Haiti, you probably take public transportation and things like that. But just know that our public transportation system here isn't formal. So you're not going to be able to, look at a bus map and say, okay, this bus is going to come here at this time. It's going to drop me off at this time. It's going to cost this much. That's not the reality here. Okay. It's very informal. So just be aware of that. In large cities, you'll find buses, camionette, which some people call tap-tap. You'll find some taxis. They're usually a Toyota Corolla and they have taxi on top. And then of course there are motos. So I've taken every single form of public transportation there is in Haiti. Before moving here, I used to come here all the time and I used to be on public transportation with my family. And once I got older, I would go on public transportation by myself. My experiences on public transportation is why I made sure to send my car to Haiti before moving here. Because I was like, there's no way. I need to make sure that I am driving. But of course, when I go to other towns, I take public transportation. In rural areas, you most likely won't find every single form of public transportation, like buses and the taxis that have like the actual taxi written on them. You probably won't see that in a lot of rural areas. You'll mainly see motos, and some places have camionette as well. If you are going to go on public transportation, please go with someone who is familiar with the area, so that you know exactly what to do, because the camionette isn't just going to stop for you. There isn't like a specific place for you to stand. Like, you need to know how to signal them. You need to know what route they're going to take to make sure that you don't get lost. Like, don't just hop on public transportation here, y'all. A lot of people will tell you don't go on motos because they're not going to have a helmet for you. Unless you're walking around with your own helmet, they're not going to have one. And there are a lot of accidents and things like that. For me, I barely get on motos in the city. Like, I will get on one in a rural area, but in the city, it has to be an emergency. So yeah, so as I said, please, if you want to get on public transportation, go with someone who is familiar with the area. If not, please make some arrangements with the hotel where you're staying and just see if they have a shuttle service or if they can make some recommendations for you. So now let's talk about picking the right vacation spot. There is a lot to explore in Haiti. You just have to know exactly what you're interested in. So if you know that you want to spend, most of your vacation on the beach or near a beach, then I would recommend staying at one of our resorts, or of course staying in a beach town so that you have easy access to the beach. One of the popular tourist spots here is Côte des Acadiens. There are a lot of resorts along the coast. It is located north of Port-au-Prince, so it is easy to drive to. A lot of people actually make arrangements with the resort to pick them up from the airport. You can do that. If you have family here, they can take you. If you normally rent a car here, you can do that too. But it isn't far. Depending on the resort that you're going to, it can take anywhere from an hour to an hour and a half. Usually when we want to go to the beach, we'll go to Royal Decameron, and that takes us like an hour and a half to get there. I like staying at Royal Decameron because it's an all-inclusive resort. They have great food, a lot of options. And then also there are a lot of activities at the resort, but then you can go on some really cool excursions as well. So I actually vlogged the last time we stayed there. So if you want to check that out, I'm going to leave it down below. Please go and watch it after you watch this video. To check out our last vacation there. The resorts at Côte des Acadiens is definitely a good option if you want to be by the beach, but there are far more beautiful beaches elsewhere. I definitely wish we had an international airport at the south, because I know there will be so many tourism opportunities. People will be building resorts left and right. But even though there aren't, these big resorts there are hotels by the beach and, other options in the south. Some of the most beautiful beaches I've been to have been in the south. Like, I remember when I went to Port Salut for the first time, I was like, wow, this is so beautiful. It's actually near Okai. So if you're in Okai, you can take day trips there. If you want to be in the city, then I definitely recommend Cap-Haïtien, which is in the North Department, Jacmel, which is in Southeast, and then Okai, which is in the South Department. There's a lot to do in all those cities. While experiencing city life, you can, take a trip to the beach. You can visit the waterfalls. You can go sightseeing. You can visit historic sites. There's just so much to do. And Haiti is so scenic. Like, you'll be at the beach and you'll see mountains in the background. Like, you really just have to see it for yourself. It's just beautiful. Now, if you want to stay in a rural area, you want to be away from the city life, then you can do that too. You really just have to know exactly what you're interested in doing, and then you can go from there. So now let's talk about finding the right hotel, which could definitely be challenging depending on your preference. I have been all over Haiti. As of today, I've actually been to 9 out of 10 departments. The only department I haven't been to is the Northeast. So I've had a lot of experiences here. And there are places that I stayed at 10 years ago that I would not stay at today, you know, unless I am going on a work trip, then I am not too flexible with hotels. I'm pretty picky. But of course, for work, there's a budget, and this is, you know, nonprofit work. So obviously, we're not going to be staying at the most luxurious hotels and things like that. So that is when I'm not too picky. But when it comes to going on vacation, I am going to find the best hotel in that area. So usually I go on Google and I search for hotels in the area that I'm traveling to, and I read all of the reviews. I specifically focus on pictures posted by guests, and that is a way to get a better idea of what the hotel looks like currently. Sometimes looking at pictures posted by the hotel isn't really accurate because those pictures were probably taken when the hotel was first built, and I want to see what it looks like now. So I read all the reviews, I look at the pictures, I go on their Facebook, I go on their Instagram. If I can't find a good hotel, I also look at Airbnb to see if there's a good Airbnb in the area as well. If you do not do a thorough search, then you may be disappointed. A lot of people in the diaspora build hotels here and they leave them for their family to run, and they may think that everything is running smoothly, but literally they're running the hotel into the ground. And I'm just like, what is this? Sometimes I'll stay at a hotel when it's first built, and then I go like 2-3 years later and it's like night and day. And I'm just wondering, like, how did this happen so quickly? That is why it's important to look at pictures posted by guests. Like, you'll get a better idea of the current state of the hotel. Also, keep in mind that customer service isn't really our strength here. I always see complaints about that when I read reviews. That is why it's important for hotel owners to continuously provide customer service training for their staff members, and also to set a standard that is respected whether the owner is present or not. Most hotels here are featured on several travel sites like Expedia, Booking.com, or Travel Advisor. So I recommend going on all of those sites and reading the reviews and then comparing. That will give you a better idea. Even though I use different travel sites to search for hotels, I never actually book with them. I always book directly with the hotel. And that is what I recommend that you do, because I see reviews about, you know, a person booking on Expedia, and then when they get to the hotel, the person at the front desk says they don't see a reservation. To avoid that, I would just book directly with the hotel. Like, just go directly to their website and see how you can book with them. Some of them don't have a page where you can actually make the reservation, but they give you instructions. Like, they'll say, okay, send all of this information to this email, and then we'll send you confirmation and all of that. So I recommend booking directly with the hotel to avoid any confusion, so that, you know, you don't get here and then you don't have a place to stay. Also, most of the hotels that I've been to here actually charge for an additional person in the room. So there'll be one price for one person, but then once you start adding people, they'll charge like $20 to $30 extra for each person. So just keep that in mind when you are booking, that there may be an extra fee for an additional person in the room. So now let's talk about finding things to do while you're here. Social media is a great way to find restaurants, events, excursions, tour companies, or whatever else you're interested in. Whenever I'm planning a trip somewhere, I usually search the hashtags on Instagram, or I go to different pages that are dedicated to that area. You know, for instance, Cap actually has so many different pages on Instagram, like people posting of things that are specifically related to Cap-Haïtien. And that is a great way to find tour companies, to find different things to do while you're there. And I've been following so many different pages from a very long time because I actually love Cap. That's my favorite city in Haiti. During our last trip to Cap, we actually went on an excursion with Safe Trips Haiti. We went to Ilaga and then we went to Cadras. It was so amazing. I actually vlogged the whole trip. So if you haven't watched my Cap vlog, please go check it out. I'm going to link it down below. So the way that I found Safe Trips was on Instagram. I was searching through the different pages and the hashtags, and then I saw different trips that they did, and I was like, okay, I want to go to Ilaga and I want to go to Cadras. So that is how we were able to do that. I definitely recommend using the tour companies because they know the area. They'll take care of all the logistics. You won't really have to worry about anything besides paying. They will come and pick you up from your hotel. It's just a good option. So of course, there are more tour companies in areas that are heavily visited by tourists. You know, you may not be able to find, different options like that in certain areas, but definitely check with the hotel to see, because they may even provide those type of services. or they can make recommendations for you. So now let's talk about money. The local currency here is the Haitian good, but the US dollar is also accepted and used a lot in different businesses. It all depends on where you are. If you're in the Port-au-Prince area, I know I said, avoid this area for now, but just to let you know, in the Port-au-Prince area, a lot of businesses actually display their prices in US dollars. Over the past 5 years since I've been living here, I have seen the government come out with mandates saying that every business needs to change their prices to good. They'll do it for some time, and then the businesses will switch back to USD, and then the government will come back out with a mandate saying the same thing again. So I've seen that happen a few times while I've been here over the past 5 years. So you will mainly see prices displayed in US dollars at major retailers. Like I'm talking about the stores that look like the stores in the States, like the aisles are arranged the same way. All the merchandise has been imported from the United States. Those retailers, they have their prices in USD a lot of the time. Also, some restaurants as well, hotels as well. Hotels across the country, I usually see their prices in US dollars. And of course, anything related to tourism. So the different car rental companies, they'll have their prices in USD. The different excursion and tour companies, they'll have it in USD. And also, if you are at a resort that allows for different vendors to come in and sell their products, then they will give you a price in USD. Whereas if they were selling the same merchandise on the street, then they would be in good. But because they are in a setting with a lot of tourists, then they'll switch to a USD price. If you are in a formal business and you don't have good, they will gladly accept your US dollars. Trust me. They will just exchange it for you, and you will see, the conversion rate on the receipt that they give you. But the only thing about that is that some stores just have an exchange rate that is way off from what the bank says. And I don't know how it's legal for businesses to have their own exchange rate, but they do. That is the reality here. That is actually why I always make sure to have both good and dollars. So if I go somewhere and the price is displayed in dollars, I will pay with dollars. If it's displayed in good, I will pay with good. Now, if you want to buy something on the street, you should definitely use the Haitian good, okay? Use the local currency when buying on the street. There is something very important that you need to know about the Haitian good and this fictional Haitian dollar. So many years ago, the Haitian good was pegged to the US dollar. And at that time, it was 5 Haitian good equaled 1 American dollar. Even though that no longer exists, it created this whole system of 5 Haitian good equaling 1 Haitian dollar. It's in quotes because it's fake. This whole Haitian dollar thing doesn't really exist, but it is something that is used every single day. It is something that you will hear every single day. So if something is 25 good, they'll say $5, $5. If it's 500 good, they'll say $100, $100. If it's 2,000 good, they'll say $400, $400. So basically, the price is divided by 5 to get this Haitian dollars, okay? That used to really confuse me as a kid when I used to go and try to buy things. But thankfully, my dad explained it to me, and that's how I was able to understand this whole fictional Haitian dollar thing that we got going on over here. So it's really important to know that, because say you want to buy a souvenir and you're like, okay, you see this nice necklace, it has Haiti on it, and you're like, okay, let me go and buy it. And the person says $100, like $100. And you might be thinking like they're trying to scam you out of $100 US. But in reality, it's really just 500 good, And as of today, 500 good is $4.34. That's it. So it's less than 5 American dollars. But because they say $100, $100, you might think they're trying to scam you because they see that you're a tourist or something like that. But in reality, they're just using this Haitian dollar system that is commonly used here. I know it's a little confusing, but it's really important for you to know about this fictional Haitian dollar, because that's what is used most commonly. So you'll hear someone say a price in this Haitian dollar more than just saying the price in good. So it's really important to take some time out to kind of understand it so that you can calculate it once they tell you the price in Haitian dollar. If it's a number that can easily be multiplied by 5, then I can, figure it out very easily. But if I go somewhere and they say, your total is $343, it's going to take me a little time to figure it out, because I'm just like, first of all, I'm not handing them 343 of anything. You know, there's nothing that I'm going to physically hand them that amounts to 343. Like, I'm going to have to multiply this 343 in my mind real quick. And people here can do it like this. Like, as soon as you say 343, they just hand the money over. They already know it because they're used to it. They can calculate it very easily. But for me, on the other hand, that is not the case. Like, I'm gonna have to be like, okay, 343. Okay, it's 300 times 5. Okay, that's 1,500. Then there's 43 left. So 40 times 5. Okay, that's 200. So now we add 1,700. And then there's a 3 left. So, okay, 3 times 5, that's 15. Okay, 1,715 good. That's what I need to hand over to the person. I hope you understand what I'm trying to say. Whatever price they tell you, if they say dollars and you know that they're talking about Haitian good, they're not talking about USD. If you're buying something on the street, they are very unlikely to be giving you a price in USD unless you're at the resort and a vendor comes into the resort to sell you something. But if you are buying something on the street, it is very unlikely for someone to give you a price in USD. So just know that if you are buying something on the street and they say $100, $500, this $100, whatever, they're not talking about US dollars, you know, and that you need to multiply whatever they say by 5. If you're going to bring cash, you have to make sure that your bills don't have any imperfections, no tears, no writing on them, because a lot of businesses here don't accept US dollar bills unless they are perfect. Like, even though they're going to accept the good in any type of condition, it could be ripped up, half of it is missing and things like that. They'll accept that in any type of condition. But for some reason, US dollar bills can't even have tears. The corner can't be missing. Like, they literally have to be perfect. Usually when I get a bill that has any issue, I just go to the grocery store and exchange it, because at the end of the day, I always need goods. So I'm like, okay, if I have a $20 bill that has like a tear, I'll just go to the grocery store and have them exchange it for me, so I can get my good. If you want to exchange money while you're here, you can do that at the bank, at the grocery store. You could even do it on the street if you're comfortable with that. So you'll see people on the street waving a large stack of good, and they're like this, and that's just a signal to show you that they can exchange your US dollars to get some good. I'm not sure about other currencies here. The most common foreign currency is the US dollar, so I cannot give you information about, you know, other currencies, but I'm pretty sure the bank accepts everything. You know, but I don't know about the people on the street. I don't know if they're going to be accepting all types of currencies and things like that. If you decide to get cash from the ATM, like you're using your Visa or MasterCard or something like that, just know that the cash is going to be in Haitian good. I usually use the Soje Bank ATM because I've tried to use any bank before and it didn't accept my Visa card. So I've just never tried since then. So I always use Soje Bank, and that ATM charges right now, I think it's like 330 good, which is less than $3 American. So they charge a fee if you're using a foreign card. And of course, your bank is going to probably charge you for using a ATM that isn't theirs. So just keep that in mind. But you can get cash from the ATM. You can also use your card at most businesses. They usually have like a card reader. You may not be able to find it as much in rural areas, but definitely in the cities, most businesses have a card reader. I have never had any issues with any fraudulent transactions, with my card being compromised or anything like that. The only thing that's ever happened is the transaction went through and the card reader said that it didn't. And whenever that happens, I automatically go on my phone and look at my account online just to make sure that it didn't go through before they try it again. So there were 2 separate occasions where that happened, and I just showed the person my phone, and I'm like, look at the transaction. It says it went through right here, and then they took care of it, and everything was okay. But I've never had my card compromised or anything like that. Nothing has ever happened at the ATM. Nothing has ever happened using the card reader at different businesses. So overall, I think it's safe, and I've been doing it for even before I moved here. Even before I moved here, I used to swipe my card at different places. So it's been over 5 years, and I've never had any fraudulent transactions. So now let's talk about Haitian culture. Of course, whenever you are visiting another country, it is important to do some research on their culture. I definitely think Haiti is a little more conservative than a lot of the other Caribbean countries. And I definitely realized that when I was a kid and I used to come and spend vacation here. I remember one time my cousins were taking me to the movies in downtown Port-au-Prince, right next to the National Palace, which is like the White House. And I had on some shorts because, you know, in the States, I would wear shorts in the summertime, you know, and Haiti is very hot. So I had on some shorts and my cousin looked at me like, where are you going with those shorts? And I'm like, it's really hot. And she was like, no, shorts are not really presentable when you're going out. You know, you need to wear like jeans and things like that. And I was just like, in this hot country, mind you, we're in Port-au-Prince. So Port-au-Prince is very hot. And I was just like, okay. So I put on my jeans, and I didn't even bring a lot of jeans because in the summertime in the States, I would always wear shorts. And so I was just like, okay, this is interesting. There was another time that I went to go and pick up my cousin from school with her grandma. And I had on flip-flops, and I had no idea that flip-flops were like considered shower shoes, house shoes. Like, you don't wear flip-flops out in the street. I had no idea, and she let me go with the flip-flops. And so once we got to the school, the person at the gate was like, you can't come in here. Like, you cannot come in here dressed like that. And I was like, huh? First of all, why she let me go out with the flip-flops? That was one. But I had no idea. And so I'm just like, this is interesting, you know? But I made sure like the next time I came on summer vacation, I had appropriate clothes. You know, if we went out, we mostly stayed in. But I'm like, if we go out, let me make sure I have jeans. Let me make sure I never go out with flip-flops. A few weeks ago, my husband had to take a picture for a government issued document. And they would not let him take his picture because of his hair. Like, he had twists and, you know, his hair is like a little big. And they were like, you cannot take the picture. And they were trying to like make him like push it all back with like a rubber band or something to make it look flat. And he was like, I'm not doing that. They told him if he takes the picture the way that his hair was, that he would not be able to get the document because the person who needs to sign off on it would not sign off on it because he is a Christian man. He is a Christian and he does not believe in those type of hairstyles and things like that. And that's just something interesting to know about Haiti because, you know, even when you go into government offices, there are certain rules and regulations that you may not imagine. You know, you can't take a picture with a certain hairstyle and things like that. You can't go in there, you know, dress a certain way. I remember when I first moved here and I kept having to go to different government offices to take care of things. And one time I had on a long sundress. I thought I was fine because they told me, you know, I couldn't wear shorts. I couldn't, you know, wear things that were too short and things like that. So I had on a long sundress, but my shoulders were exposed. And because my shoulders were exposed, they did not let me in. So of course, there are certain things that you will learn ahead of time. And then there are things that you will learn while you are here. You know, so it's good to have someone around you who knows the culture and who can kind of give you a heads up so that you aren't doing anything that's out of the norm so that you don't stand out. So I get a lot of messages from people who have never been to Haiti, who don't have family here, who don't have anyone to travel with. And they tell me, you know, like, where should they start? What should they do? You know, how do they go about planning this trip? And I always recommend that they go on a group trip. You know, if you go on a group trip with a travel agency, they take care of everything for you. You don't have to worry about the logistics, and you just know that you just literally pay and you show up. And so I think that's the best option. I always recommend the Haitian Nomad. I've been following him for the past few years. He is the founder of Haitian Nomad Trips, and they go on trips all around the world, and they host really cool Haiti trips. There may be other travel groups, but I don't really know them. But he is the one that I've been following for the past few years. And I always say, like, if I'm going to a country and I want to go on a group trip, that I will definitely contact the Haitian Nomad. So now for people who are coming here to stay with their family, I recommend trying to get out to explore as much as possible because a lot of people think that the neighborhood that their family live in is Haiti, the experiences that they have with their family, that's Haiti. And in reality, it isn't. Like, even for me, I used to come here all the time growing up. All the time. But in reality, I did not know Haiti because I never got to go out and explore. It wasn't until I got older and I started doing things on my own and I started going here and there and basically touring all of Haiti. That's when I really got to see what Haiti was all about. I didn't even know that we had grocery stores here. I thought it was just always the street market because my family on both sides only shopped at the street market. So I used to always go with them, and whatever lifestyle they had, that's what I thought was Haiti. I didn't know there was this whole other world that existed. If all of your experiences are with your family at their house, in their neighborhood, they never take you out to explore, then you really cannot say that you know Haiti. You literally just know one neighborhood in one area. That's it. And one type of lifestyle, the lifestyle that your family has, you know? And in reality, a lot of people don't have the resources to take you out and do certain things like that. So if you know that you like to explore Haiti and do different things while you're here, you can always speak to your family and start making arrangements and just let them know that you will pay for it, you know, if that's possible. Now, there are a lot of strict Haitian households here, especially Christian households. So if you have family members that are very strict and they start hyping you up saying, yeah, when you come down, we're going to spend a few days at the beach. We're going to go to Old Cap. We're going to do this and that. Just know by the time you get here, there are going to be a million excuses about why you can't go. They're going to tell you they had a dream, and in the dream they saw this and that, and they really don't think that you should go, and it's just not safe. And this, even though they promised you that they were going to take you out and things like that, when you get here, it's a whole different story. You know, if you have family that is very strict and very boring, do not count on them to take you anywhere. Okay. So if you know you want to explore Haiti, don't stay at their house. Come to Haiti with your friends. Come to Haiti with your partner. Come to Haiti with your cousins who want to explore Haiti as well. Don't think you're going to go to your family's house, your strict family's house, and go here and there and everywhere. That's probably not going to happen, even if they promise it to you. Just know, if you have strict family members, they're going to come up with a million excuses by the time you get here. So make other plans. So I have given you all a lot of tips and recommendations. I know there are probably some things that I missed. So if you could think of anything else, please leave your comments down below. I'm sure they will help other people who are looking to travel to Haiti. If you have specific questions, please DM me on Instagram. I answer all of my DMs. I have been giving so much advice. I've been chatting with a lot of you all. So please, if you have anything specific, just DM me on Instagram and I will help you all out as much as I can. There are many more videos like this to come. I hope you stick around with me as I showcase different aspects of Haiti. If you have any specific video suggestions, please leave them down below, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye.